Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. We are going to get straight into today's video with just a few little points that I must make before we start this. One, we are going to be doing a 100-day zoologist challenge. So in this 100-day challenge, I have 3 different goals that we will be trying to complete. One, we are going to make a zoo. We're going to have as many animals as possible. On top of it, I want to have a variety in food. And number 3, we will decorate our home fully as well as our base. So we will have a lovely decorated space to live our days out in. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy this 100-day challenge. Of course, I started off in a hole, in the jungle, a very fitting place for someone like me. I start panicking almost immediately, because the jungle is not a good place for fresh meat to start in. If you didn't get the hint, I'm talking about tigers. Nevertheless, I start gathering wood like a good Minecraft Samaritan. Slapping together a wooden pickaxe, I make my way down the hole again to grab some stone. Which doesn't go as planned. I'm waterboarded immediately and piranhas are already making their showcase. I quickly make fun of the piranha as it flops around, and then I continue to grab some more stone, only to be met by a party of piranhas. Just look at them. Look at them as they flop. Can you hear that? Finally I get serious, and I actually make myself some stone tools. Then I head off to find the spot where we're going to make our beautiful oasis. I almost immediately decide to take refuge at an island between the jungle and the forest. I take some time to clear a little space, but soon these trees will all be cleared because we need to make way for the circus that I'm about to build. Noticing my food is starting to get a little low, I decide to grab some more stone so I can cook the dead piranha. Yeah, it's disgusting compared to the food that we can actually make. Realizing that I might need some type of light source, I grabbed some useless birch to make some good old charcoal. I'm probably gonna regret calling it useless later. I didn't realize it until after rewatching the footage, but I had thieving raccoons stealing from my chest. One of them stole my settings for my realistic biomes add-on. What a thief. What a cute little... oh gosh. I can't even be mad at him. Look how cute they are. Sadly, the sun starts to set on day 0, and I decided to do a little strip mining because I don't have a bed, and we might as well make myself useful. On day 1, I emerge from my hidey hole, and I still don't realize the raccoons are stealing from my chest. I smelt the tiny amount of iron that I found while strip mining, and yeah, I hate strip mining. I didn't find jack. I quickly decide that on day 1, I wanted to clear some space for my future home, so I make a few stone axes, and I get chopping. I was chopping trees almost all day, till I had a branch manager yell at me. Yeah, I'm talking about a beaver. But no, I didn't stop there. I proceeded to chop every tree that Chewbacca had been chewing on. After I satisfied my urge to prove my manager wrong, I decided to take a quick snooze in the bed that I had acquired. Day 2 starts, and I decided to get serious and made myself some very limited iron gear and a poker. I then ran to the jungle to start harvesting some wood for my zoologist home. After chopping my heart out again, I decided to swim home in piranha-infested water to start the outline of my home. Since I had decided on using jungle wood, I decided that I also needed a lighter block to tone down any harshness that came with the jungle wood. After looking through everything that I could make, I set my heart on using some plain yellow wallpaper as an accent. And as you can see, even after figuring out the color palette, I had no idea what I wanted this house to look like, so I just started off with a very basic shape. I worked like a dog day and night just to build the first sad level. As day 3 slapped me in the face, I knew I had to improve the flop of a house. But ultimately, I just decided to trust the process and let my special brain do the work. After adding the second level, I was hoping it would improve the look of the place, and of course it didn't. Since doing the second level took me all day, I decided that I needed to light up my area so I could actually start working during the nights. I can't keep wasting precious time. Once my area was lit up to well enough standards, I decided to start lining out the area for another room to the house. We are going to need the space. We're going to be working with animals and food, so we need double the space. After I kind of line out that area, I ultimately decide to go to bed because monsters are trying to hug me, and I am not a hugger.
Day 4 made its appearance, and I decided to make a small farm beside the river, which turned out to be completely useless and a waste of my time because it doesn't even grow anything. It takes way too long. I don't know if I'm just not in the range, but it took way too long. So I make a completely different farm at some point. So instead of setting my sights on making our farm bigger, I decide to completely change the plans and start hunting for animals. Goose is going to be so mad at me. But I had to. I was hungry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry ahead of time, Goose. Please don't hate me. I had to. After hunting for a little bit, I decided to start cooking the meat, so hopefully I will actually have enough food to finish our house. While I am waiting for my meat to fully cook, I decide to try and choose another block to help me add to my house. I didn't want to use the same blocks because if I use too much of the same blocks, then it kind of makes the build flat. If you don't have multiple different colors and different schemes, it's not gonna be the type of build that at least I'm looking for. So I decide to add a completely different wood to the process. We're going to be using oak wood, except it has a little twist. It's like a smoothed oak wood. So it's not anywhere near planky or anything. It's very smooth. As you can see from the beginning, I basically start to fill in the area only to completely change it. Yeah, I know I have an issue. I can never decide on what I'm building, so I just try a bunch of different things and hope that one of them looks better than the other. And yes, building does take much longer because of that, so don't ask. At the end, when I started to open up our house a little bit more on this longer room, I realized that the open concept was going to look really good. Now, I wanted it to be a lot more open because it just feels right for the occasion. As a zoologist, you need to be able to see everything and anything that is going on outside your house. So I'm leaving all of these spaces open to lay glass down, so then I have an abundance of windows, and it should make my home look really good. Not only will the lighting be amazing, but I will also be able to hopefully see some of our animals out my window. I start digging up sand on day 5 so I can actually start filling in my windows. After throwing my sand into the furnace, I decide it is time to go onto a bit of an adventure. As I swim across the lake, I make friends with an otter that is spinning uncontrollably. Setting my eyes on a cave, I make my way down in hopes of finding some treasures. Only then I see the cave is giant and definitely out of my league. So I turn around in fear and I escape from the mouth of the cave. Getting a second wind, I decide I just need some wood and I head down to conquer my fears. Monsters attack almost immediately and I fend them off like a good warrior hiding behind my shield. During the mining session, I find a good amount of iron and some coal as well. After I get my goodies, I decide to make my way home and I quickly hop into bed. Day 6 dawns, and guess what? We are cooking some iron. Why? Because I am now the proud owner of a bucket. I tragically destroyed my cute little river garden. RIP. But it's fine, we pivoted. I threw together a very casual garden, and by casual I mean seeds and veggies just kind of scattered everywhere like botanical confetti. It's giving chaos, not crops, but hey, it's where we start. Then came the home improvements. I mapped out where my future majestic glass windows would go, and it was all going great until a skunk walked up and skunked my entire renovation vibe. Apparently my door placement offended him deeply. Note to self, do not argue with nature's gas bomb. I kept going anyway, builder's courage and all. I started working on the roof when suddenly inspiration struck. What if an eagle's nest? It's very chic, it's very zoologist core. I worked all throughout the night, as one does. Rise and shine. It is day 7 and it is moving day. Time to haul all my worldly belongings into my new house like a proper adult. At this point, I had finally rewatched my footage. I discovered a shocking twist in my lore. My biome settings had been stolen by the raccoons, along with my trust. I quickly patched the roof and dashed into the jungle for more wood, and when I came back home, guess what had grown? My first pineapple! A little celebration dance? For sure. Fueled by my fruity joy, I did not sleep, again, and set off into the jungle for some cave exploration. And boom, a massive, gaping cave mouth. I nearly swan dived into the void, but instead I politely carved out a staircase like a responsible splunker. I sat down there as day 8 begins. The cave gods were giving a mood today. I struck quite a bit of iron, quite a bit of coal, and some cave fish. Yes, cavefish. I apparently now eat like a goblin troll. I cooked up the fish feast and kept exploring, eyes glittering with cave crystals and mushrooms that were probably judging me. Drum roll, please. I have found a diamond. Just one. But we take those wins and we romanticize them. On day 9, we are still in the cave and still looking for diamonds. Still hearing creepy noises behind me and pretending they're not real. But finally, the mother lode. Multiple diamonds. I screamed, I cried, I did a little twirl, and then I climbed out of that dark hole like a dramatic gremlin ascending into the overworld. As I am crawling out of the cave, I notice a plot twist. The jungle's waters are now ruled by piranhas. I swam for my life like it was Shark Week and barely made it out without my limbs. Then I promptly spent those diamonds on armor because a cute zoologist needs protection too, okay? With my newly made diamond armor, I gathered sand at night and then collapsed in bed. I dreamed of less toothy fish. On day 11, it was another tree-topping montage. I wanted wood and the forest delivered. But the piranhas, they're still here, and honestly, I think they're following me. I slapped the last of my windows into my house, and I started to build up the pillars for our eagle's nest. I would call this a win. The planning went well. On day 12, I set my sights on wrestling with some shapes, specifically the roof shape. I decorated my eagle's nest like it was getting a makeover on the birdie reality TV show. Borders, trapdoors, fancy little stairs. I even added a quirky roof shape that makes no structural sense at all, but it looks artsy, so I kept it. So we gotta go through the checklist. We got fences. Yep, that's check. Ambience? Immaculate. I think it is absolutely stunning. Finally, on day 13, I had finished the roof. It's giving very zoologist castle with avian penthouse. As I finished the rooftop, I lit it up to keep the mobs out. I'm not about to get surprised by a creeper on my luxury rooftop lounge. The second floor is officially closed for business, aka the walls and the ceiling, it's all done. I cleaned up the downstairs to give it a little bit more of a cozy vibe, and I even planted some new crops afterwards. Once I had completed my little plant excavate, I decided to move my bed upstairs like a real adult. I feel very grown up. Today I set my goals on finding my first zoo animal. I was searching almost all day until I finally laid my eyes upon our first baby. A beautiful red coat, a red panda. I leashed it and then I ran. I got home safely and locked it in gently like the little treasured guest he is, and I passed out in joy. After taking a good old nap and moving on to day 16, I came downstairs and noticed my red panda looked a little lonely. Naturally, of course, I need another one. Trekking through the jungle with bamboo in my hand, I run into a vicious beast, a tiger. I slowly back away in fear that there might be cubs around. After running through the jungle away from the tiger, I finally found another red panda. I snagged him up, and bonus, a capybara, because I have no self-control. I marched home like a mad woman, with a second capybara as well. I got my children home safely and looked around. That's when I realized my house was now a zoo. Literally. Day 17 was made for building. I threw up some gorgeous pillars to start mapping out the enclosure, and then I started to build the first layer to the wall using some crazy birch plank pattern. Now, if HTV had a Zoologist expansion pack, this would be it. With some beams, birch, and some sandstone flare, the enclosure started to look expensive. And I will say, it was very expensive. It took me a lot of time. I built up a high viewing platform for dramatic zoo selfies and tourist vibes. By morning, the viewing area had been completed. Finally, I could focus on perfecting the ecosystem, planting trees, and creating a water source. I moved the animals into the enclosure and let them frolic, and honestly, it was beautiful. Now, after that had all been done, the river was flowing, the trees were grown, and the bamboo was starting to bud. My little nature preserve dreams are coming true. Day 20 was lost footage. I'm so sorry about this. I don't know if I just completely forgot to record or what happened. But no footage for today. I'm pretty sure I connected the animal enclosure to my house so I could actually see into the enclosure through my house. That sounds like me, and we're gonna go with that. It's farming time, baby. I planned out a huge garden and chose mud bricks for that rich, earthy, homegrown aesthetic. I may have regretted my choice later, because I then spent the whole day making mud bricks. Days 22 through 28 was a lot of terraforming, planting, and repeating. It was kind of a blur of dirt, crops, terraforming, and plant placement. My island grew, and my soul grew as well. By day 28, I had wheat fields, tropical fruit, and pineapples in the red panda enclosure, because every zoo animal deserves flavor. Now, finally, the whole island started looking like a zoologist botanical resort, and that's exactly what I was going for. Day 28, and I was feeling a little wild. Like, pack your bags and head to the jungle wild. Because today I was on a mission to find the most majestic, most mysterious, and most aggressively chill creature in Minecraft. The sloth. I found him, just one, alone, peaceful, possibly napping upright. I scooped up my new sloth-moving bestie and brought him home like the proud zoologist I am. I mean, who wouldn't want a tree-hugging roommate? But then, of course, I made the mistake. I went back. I wanted another sloth because science and companionship, and they are all adorable, and I might be forming a small army of them. Don't ask questions. After a few jungle detours and a narrowly dodged death by a berry bush, I found him, a sloth. Number 2. Operation Two Lazy Dudes was a success. Once I got him home safely, I did what any responsible animal caretaker would do. I googled them. Okay, no, I read the book and the game like a true scholar, of course. And then I tamed them. And then I tried to breed them. And that is when things got weird. Instead of hearts and sloth babies, they just started sliding past each other. Like two awkward teens at a middle school dance. No eye contact, no romance, just shuffle. Ultimately, I decided to give them some space and head to bed myself, dreaming of the day these two will stop ghosting each other and give me the sloth baby I deserve.
8:30 dawned, and you know what that means. It is terraforming time. I filled in those annoying gaps and cleaned up my island like I was on some HTV special. Then it was time to start planning the new sloth enclosure, because these little guys need vibes too, and not just trees. I started with a circular layout, very posh, and then I used my signature trio, sandstone, birch, and oak. As the sun dipped down, I scrambled to finish the birch outline of the wall, and then I passed out in my bed like a true, exhausted architect. Woke up feeling motivated. I continued to work on the sloth enclosure. She's small, she's cozy, and she's possibly temporary. I slapped some oak beams on the top to give her some structure, and then pivoted into building the viewing area. Because obviously, if I'm going to have sloths, people need to be able to look at them dramatically while sipping smoothies, right? I used the basics of the slabs and the jungle logs for that wild yet refined aesthetic. Then I wrapped some things up, putting up some fences, and then I gave my capybaras and red pandas a little romantic evening. Let the breeding commence. Afterwards, I spent the whole night crafting bone meal from dead leaves, because apparently I am a leaf hoarder now. Today's mission, making a cute little stream for the sloths. I added bamboo, grew some jungle trees super tall, because height equals drama, and then I bone mealed everything within my sight. Then came the moment of truth. I led the sloths into their new pad, and they slid in like butter. The whole breeding situation? Oh no. One of their legs was twitching, and I'm a little concerned. I don't think it's gonna work. I added some cocoa beans on the tree for extra ambiance, and then I rewarded myself with a good read from the cooking guide before calling it a night. I think it is time to build a kitchen. I grabbed a pan to match my pot, because aesthetic cohesion, of course. I slapped down some smooth birch for counters and jazzed them up with some trapdoors and signs. And then I made a stove that didn't work, which was pretty rude. Afterwards, I realized I needed a stovetop, which is a very classic move on my hand. Feeling a little fancy, I took a quick mining trip for materials and immediately got jumped by a spider spawner. I couldn't help but feel scammed once I realized there was no treasure in the first spider spawner. And then I stumbled across a second spawner, where the mobs fought each other like I was watching reality TV. I decided to let them duke it out, and then I looted in style. On day 34, I escaped the mines and scurried home. I was finally able to make my stovetop. That's when I encountered a problem. I couldn't even put the stovetop on top of the stove. How does that make any sense? Disappointed, I moved it and just moved on. I sorted my food into my perfect little cabinets, my veggies, fruit, chaos items, you name it. And I made my first real meal, blackberry jam. Fancy, fruity, and fabulous, maybe? Day 35 rolled around and I decided that I wanted to make a little bit of a better meal, just because blackberry jam can't hold you off for too long. We needed cheese for our cheesy spinach noodles, which meant one thing, a cow hunt. During my cow hunt, I found some strawberries, some raspberries, and some new seeds along the way. Then, drum roll, I found 2 cows. Tiny pin, check. Cheese bucket, check. Memory loss, check. Also because I forgot the recipe again. Eventually, I threw the noodles, spinach, and cheese into the pot, which made my second gourmet dish. And then I binge-made cheese, planted my food like a lunatic, and crafted a blender, which made me smoothies. Yes, plural. We are living in luxury now.
Day 36, I harvested the garden and headed off to find another zoo baby. After a good run, I met the most aesthetic iguana ever, a sunset yellow beach core vibe. Obviously, he needed his own in-house enclosure, so I started digging a basement like a gremlin with a dream. Walls, floor, layout, all done before I was passed out. On day 37, the basement work continued. I carved out a hallway for mini enclosures, and I made the iguana's habitat a sandy paradise. He is a coastal king. I quickly moved him in and sealed it with glass and called it a success. On day 38, I added a sneaky entrance into his enclosure, gave him a cute water spot, and then tried to tame him. Turns out you can't, which I found to be extremely rude. I plucked some fresh fruit from our trees and started flipping through our creature guide for my next target. I flipped upon the page of tigers and panthers, and yes, it is time. I decided to pick the island across from mine for the danger zone habitat, and then I started to terraform as the sun went down. Day 39 was spent terraforming. I really wanted a dramatic sloping island with layered levels for that very big cat energy. I worked all day into the night. Day 40, and you guessed it, lots of more terraforming, but now it's finally starting to look like something. Day 41, I took a little smoothie break and harvested the garden for some self-care. Then I worked on the fields until nightfall and slept like a baby farmer. Day 42 rolled around quickly and I was back on the island. I started planning a hangover ledge for the tigers because they deserve a dramatic lounge. I added some fancy terraforming with some mossy cobble slabs and some stone that gave it a wild, rocky look. I worked straight through the night again. Please help. On day 43, the island terraforming continued. I placed the sandstone pillars for the enclosure walls, and I decided I wanted a bit of water in the layout, but not too much. We needed balance. It took all day, and then I crashed into bed. Day 44 was resource day. I spent it raising pillars and collecting even more sand. But hey, placing those pillars was pretty satisfying. On day 45, I tried to finish the birch pattern on the wall, but immediately ran out of sand, and I nearly cried. I spent the day gathering more, and then I continued the awkward roller coaster fence that goes up and down like a tiger-sized amusement park. But of course, afterwards, I needed to reward myself with smoothies again. On day 46, I woke up and gathered even more materials. I am slowly learning. Afterwards, I finished the oak beam caps on the pillars, and then did a little cinematic pan as a meteor shower danced across the sky. Thank you, realistic biomes, for the vibes. I tucked myself in at night, dreaming of stripes and smoothies. Today, I sculpted a river across Big Cat Island. Very majestic, very natural, and very muddy. I literally spent all day laying the mud at the bottom because nothing screams dangerous predator habitat than a filthy riverbed. I then summoned some big trees because you need big trees for the big cats, of course, that's logical. I then added some bamboo for that touch of panda bait, sprinkled across moss like it was seasoning on a salad, and fixed the rocky cliff because it offended me. I then used tiny buttons as rocks. Yes, buttons. For the last touch, I bone mealed the entire forest into leafy chaos and then nearly starved doing it. I crawled out of the enclosure at sunrise like a cryptid. I walked into my house and was greeted by a merchant in my house. Sir, this is a private residence, not a flea market. I decided to distract myself with some food, toast with blueberry jelly to be exact. I threw the blueberries into the pot and harvested it with a bottle like some kind of jam alchemist. I think the merchant thought he was helping by tap dancing on my pot the entire time. Pretty sure his toes should have been on fire, but okay. After a lot of back and forth motion, I ate my toast. It was divine, if I could actually taste in Minecraft. Then I harvested my entire garden because it was overgrown and screaming for attention. I sorted through my crops, which took almost the rest of the day, and then fell asleep. Today's project was aesthetic rock placement in the tiger enclosure. That's right, strategic rocks. Once I was done, I sprinted into the jungle to finally find a tiger. Spoiler, I did not find a tiger. But I did chop down a very tall tree for saplings and nearly got mauled while walking home in the dark. No tiger for now, but I made it back alive, and I fell asleep dreaming of stripy murder cats. Day 50 was tiger time. I was determined to explore. I explored almost all day, going deeper into the jungle, but no luck, no tiger. But I did end up locking eyes with a monkey and a lemur, who both gave me "take me with you" face, so I did. I got them home, and things immediately got weird. One of the monkeys hovered on the inside of my window, dancing. Not on the ground, in the air. Then the lemur flung himself down my stairs like he was a toddler learning about gravity. This zoo is haunted, and I'm going to bed. On day 51, tiger anxiety was hitting, but today, I found one. Don't worry. It took me seconds, which honestly makes yesterday feel a little offensive. He was just vibing behind a hill, so I popped a lead on him and strolled back like it was a casual dog walk. I got him back safely into his enclosure and grabbed a name tag. I duped him, Stripes. Listen, I know it's basic, but I don't regret it. I then tried to find a second tiger for future baby tigers, but I had absolutely no luck. I checked on Stripes and found him sleeping like a fluffy angel by the river. How can something be so cute and have murder in its heart? I planted a few more trees and firefly bushes in the enclosure, and then swam home, because apparently that's my life now. Day 52, and I am done. After swimming across the same stupid stretch of water for 52 whole days, I decided it was time for a luxurious item. Or a bridge, I guess. I guess it's not an item. I don't know why I called it an item. That's right, no more doggy paddling for this girl. I used my classic favorite blocks and regretted it immediately because it's so much sand. I used the columns to space it out, and turns out one of them was in the wrong spot, but we don't talk about her. Afterwards, I tried to make it all fancy with a nice curve upwards, and I worked through the night like a possessed madwoman and into the morning. It was done. She was beautiful, she's mine, and she's slightly leaning to the left, which I end up fixing, don't you worry about it. Day 53, and it's time to decorate my masterpiece. I sprinted into the jungle like a caffeinated squirrel and grabbed a bunch of leaves and started laying them out on my bridge. I tried to make a fancy arch, and it looked like hot garbage, so I yeeted that immediately. Afterwards, I hung up a few lanterns for ambience and admired my work and went to bed. New mission for today. Find a lady tiger for Stripey. It took me 5 minutes. 5. Like, after days of struggling beforehand, are you kidding me? Anyways, I dragged her home, and then I realized I had 0 meat to breed them with. I sacrificed a cow, and I'm so sorry, Betsy. Then before I decided to breed them, I built a viewing area, because apparently tigers get a little murdery when they have babies. So says the book. Afterwards, I tried to feed them the beef, but no hearts came. I ran home to check my wiki, and it said any meat. My tigers, though, they said not that meat. I think the wiki lied to me. How dare it? Meat hunting montage. I got a drumstick and a few other things, like I think a goose and a duck. I went back and they barely liked the drumstick. And then I found out they wouldn't even take the duck or the goose. What the crap? I don't know what to do at this point. I decided to go out for another meat hunting montage, and I found some pork. Hopefully this will quench their hunger. I ran back and fed them the new pork, and I got hearts, but they fell asleep mid-romance. I swear this game is mocking me. I watched the sunset and dreamed and hoped for the new tiger to come soon. I just want a baby, please. Day 56, and I was determined for these tigers to have a baby. Except it wasn't a tiger. It was a panther. Excuse me, biology gods, this doesn't make any sense. I started thinking and realized that maybe it was because we weren't in a jungle biome. Who knows? Either way, welcome to the zoo, baby. After that confusing encounter, I decided to make some jelly because emotional support food is very important. Afterwards, I realized that I was starting to run out of my fruit, so I harvested my garden and continued to expand it. Once I finished harvesting my garden, I decided it was time for bed. After such an emotionally confusing day, it's what I needed. Day 57, I decided it was adventure time. My world was very small, and I felt like I had not explored a lot. I ran off into the woods and ended up finding an ocean with some kelp, which also means sushi, and that also means, of course, I had to grab it. That's when I met an eel who wanted to make me his snack. Not today, Satan. Afterwards, I found a pillager outpost, and then remembered I had no armor on. My brain cell status is offline. Taking out my frustrations on some coconuts, I smashed them, and then I was sent home by a creeper. Thank goodness I put keep inventory on. Day 58, and I tried breeding the tigers again. Yet another panther? I give up. I don't know what to do. That's when I thought of it. Maybe I would just have to drag these two tigers into the jungle to get another baby tiger. We'll do that later, though. To quench my sadness, I decided to do some more exploring, except in the opposite direction. This is where I found a savanna and met two giraffes. I realized quickly that they wouldn't fit through the forest, so I tied them to a fence and ran home like a coward before the night mobs came and attacked. We couldn't have them getting caught in the crossfire, of course. On day 59, I made my way back towards the giraffes that I had left stranded in the forest. I found them and started to drag them home, which took literally forever. I then tied them up in my cow pen because we don't have a giraffe pen yet, okay? Yes, after this, my footage mysteriously vanished. I have no idea what happened. Day 60 was also lost. All I did, though, was build an island for the giraffe enclosure, and it was very mediocre. I didn't do too much, so don't you worry. Day 61, I woke up to my lemur styling my hair. He did a terrible job, but he tried. I decided to build another bridge to Giraffe Island because the water is literally filled with piranhas, and I'm not about that. I worked on this bridge through the night like a caffeinated child, and I think I finished it. I gathered sand, almost an unreasonable amount. I built more walls, came home to my lemur, and he had escaped. I chased him back inside. Note to self, stop leaving the door open. Finally, I finished placing the oak beams to our new giraffe enclosure. That's when I realized the whole island was just dirt. No silk touch on me. Pure pain. While contemplating life, I had a few piranhas attack me. I fought back and tossed their brothers' bodies into the water as a warning. I then grew an acacia tree, which gave me one sapling. And I need more. I need more! Yeah, the tree only gave me one sapling still. Pretty petty of it, honestly. Day 64, I planted trees in the giraffe enclosure. I then moved them into their new pad and let them roam. I bred them, and the baby giraffe is already taller than me. How rude. I added some hay bales and lit up my entire zoo like a Christmas tree. Day 65, and it was a terraforming marathon for the Big Cat Island. I decided that we would be making 2 new enclosures, one for lions and one for panthers. I built these islands out for literally the whole day. I'm basically a landscaper now, and I'm a professional at my job. On day 66, I realized that the tiger enclosure was a bit big. I ended up shrinking the tiger enclosure because they weren't even using the backspace. Plus, we want to be able to see the tigers in the area that we actually have a viewing area, so this just kind of levels it out. Reforming this new enclosure took almost all day because I had to cut down a jungle tree and I had to terraform some certain parts just to make the wall actually fit. But nevertheless, I kept working until the moon came up. Even more terraforming, I'm sure you guessed it. I started to mark out the new enclosure with the chiseled sandstone, and then added a cute little pond into the area. This took me almost all night, and sometime in the night I ended up getting chased off the island by a literal zombie parade. Not fun. I was pretty much about dead. Day 68 was building the walls. Yes, more boring building of walls. At some point, I accidentally punched a goose, and he declared war. He started waddling and flapping his wings at me like he was an angry toddler throwing a tantrum. Afterwards, I'm pretty sure I spent the rest of the day gathering materials and building the wall. It was a lot of just a back and forth motion, which is never great. Finally, on day 69, I finished the second enclosure and started to map out the third one, which I ran out of sand. Again, this is my life now. It is day 70, and we have 30 more days to go. Sadly, we are not celebrating that quickly. I built more walls, and finally, I added those stairs that I keep forgetting to add onto every enclosure. I took a much-needed break to make some noodles and some raspberry jelly, like a 5-star chef. Actually, I take that back. I am a 5-star chef. Day 71, I ate jelly toast. I gathered more sand, and I went to bed. Riveting content. Day 72, finally I was able to decorate the outside of the enclosures. They looked like a fancy zoo enclosure on the inside and actual garbage on the outside, so we had to fix that. Which meant gathering more sand, obviously. On day 73, I decided we needed a path. I ended up making a path for the whole island. It spiraled, and then I ended up building an auto composter because mashing bones by hand is a crime. I then decorated the panther with some tall, spooky trees. Well, I guess they're not too spooky. They're just oak. Day 74 rolled around, and it was fine for the final touches. I moved the baby panthers into their own house and tried breeding the tigers in the jungle biome because of science. For some reason, they kept falling asleep on me, so I forced them to breed in the water so they wouldn't run off. Another panther. I am actually cursed. So, to hopefully fix the issue, I tried moving the tigers into the panther pen and then realized the home aesthetics were all wrong. So, don't worry, I end up switching them back. Finally, it was Operation Lion Hunt. I ran into the savannah and searched for hours. Not actually hours, minutes, but hours in Minecraft, okay? I finally found lions, majestically perched on a mountain like royalty. I put them on leads quickly and dragged them home. They were nice, for the most part, until we got home. Then they went full murder mode, and they ate me once. I quickly threw on some armor and wrestled them into the enclosure. I couldn't even decorate it because they were too bitey. I planted a few trees from a safe distance and called it a win. And that is where we leave it for day 75. One girl, one zoo, and a few angry cats. Day 76, I moved our big cats to their forever home. Like I said, I moved them back into their actual areas. I expanded the island for a mystery animal because apparently I hate free time. Day 77, I gathered a stupid amount of resources. Then I almost finished the expansion and ran out of dirt. Again. Finally, I started to lay out the new enclosure for someone. I stole some dirt from another island because priorities, of course. I then read my animal book and found the perfect next friend. An elephant, please and thank you. Day 79, I threw myself into the savannah and found an elephant almost immediately. Of course, I kidnapped him. I then kicked out the merchant that was squatting in his new home. And then I started to decorate. I added some acacia trees and a water trough instead of a river because apparently the lake that is below is infested with piranhas. Good times. Day 80 and I finally decided to finish the lion enclosure. I tied them up because I do value my life. I decorated their yard with some grown trees, grass, and a muddy river. Afterwards, I broke their leads and immediately regretted it because now my leads are inside with some very angry cats. Of course I risked it all for the leads. I think it was worth it. Day 81 was resource grinding day. Then I made a cute little viewing area so the giraffes and elephants can peek over and silently judge guests. I then added another viewing area for the panthers as well. After a good rest, I decided to add a lion viewing spot so the guests don't become snacks. I then built a big path around Big Cat Island, and then harvested crops at night, because sleep is for cowards. Day 83, I finished harvesting. I planted some kelp because my sushi cravings are getting a little crazy. And then I made some avocado sushi, because I can't have it in real life. I'm allergic. I then moved my storage to the basement for a future kitchen glow up. Finally, I built a little staircase down to the chest room, and then, of course, got lazy halfway through and didn't finish the rest of it. It's fine. It is the smallest part of my house, and you hardly see it. Afterwards, I tore down the kitchen like the menace that I have become, and began to lay out the new one. Day 85, and I lost all of my decorating footage. I blame OBS. I'm not okay. Day 86, and I am still extremely bitter with OBS. But I found 2 kangaroos, one normal and one with built-in boxing gloves. Why? I have no idea. I nearly got KO'd getting them home, though. Day 87, and I expanded the Savannah Island more. I ran out of dirt, and then I gathered dirt. I ran out again, and I tried to gather more, but the mobs, at night, they said no. Afterwards, I decided to build the enclosure anyways, because we are on a deadline here, people. Day 88, more building. I decorated with acacia trees and a water trough. Living the zoo owner's life is hard. Day 89, and I decided to add hay beds almost everywhere. I then discovered that I can ride my elephant, which I probably should have known. Afterwards, I started a new mini project, an aquatic area. But the piranhas had other plans. I guess piranha attacks are now a new personality trait. Day 90 was spent mostly building the aquatic pen. I then moved the kangaroos and got punched again. Afterwards, I made many buckets. By many, I mean many. Day 91, and it was time for the ocean critter expedition. I got an eel, and of course it bit me. I avoided a few hammerhead sharks, found some sea stars, jellyfish, an octopus, and some type of glowing anglerfish. Once I got home, I released them into their new enclosure. I built a glass wall so guests can't get eaten, hopefully. And then almost everything despawned almost instantly. Classic Minecraft move. Day 92, I harvested our garden. Then I built some cute little new paths because we need that aesthetic. Afterwards, I watched grass grow because that's my life now. Finally, I decided it was time for some more bones. I needed bone meal. I killed a bunch of fish and grew some jungle trees. I then ran out of saplings and chopped more in the jungle. Afterwards, I took a nice sleep. Day 94, I built a smoothie stall and a sushi shack because a good zoo needs good snacks. I spent hours and hours crafting some new cute decor. Finally, the day had come to decorate. I had a decorating spree and made my room very, very cozy. Afterwards, I went outside and bone mealed the ground. I added some pebbles, hammocks, carts, and a bamboo wind chime. I am now living my cottagecore zoo fantasy. Day 96, I searched for flowers all day into the night. I planted lilacs because it's my favorite. I mean, what do you think my name's about? I then planted more flowers everywhere, and I have no regrets. Day 97, and I made butter. And 2 waffles, because I only had 1 egg. I wanted more waffles, but I couldn't find any eggs. Afterwards, I built a kangaroo viewing area so my guests can get punched from a safe distance. Day 98, I finished up said viewing area and finally completed the savannah path. Afterwards, I placed in some beef on the grill at the sushi shack because I'm pretty bad at this. I should have put some fish on there. Day 99, and I had decided I wanted peacocks, but I didn't want a new enclosure. So let them roam. Immediate regret. I found another portal and found some lodestones. I grabbed my peacocks and made more decor. I cried in my beautiful bed. It is the final day on our beautiful zoo world. I placed our fountains and filled them with water. I then used our lodestone compass for the dramatic effect. Afterwards, I retired my armor and took a sentimental tour through the zoo. I had found my lemur escaped again, of course. I said goodbye to everyone, and of course the lions still hate me as well. I made one last fruity drink and watched the sunset from the eagle's nest. And this is the end result for our 100-day challenge. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. It took me quite a bit to make, so thank you so much for being so patient with me. Anyways, I will see you next time.